everybody, welcome to Rachel's Reviews. And today for Theater Tuesday, we are talking about Schmigadoon. This is episodes 3 and 4 of season 2. And I'm theater critic Rachel Wagner, and Maren is here.
Hello.
And Adam is here.
Hello.
And I don't know about you two, but I felt like these were definitely the best episodes of the season so far. I mean, I know we've only had 4, but I thought that especially episode 3 had the most just outright jokes that made me laugh.
I had so much fun with both of them. So much fun.
Yeah. And maybe it helps that I have seen Sweeney Todd a couple times, and and I've seen Annie a couple times, so I feel like I've seen more than in the sort of Cabaret Chicago. I've seen them both now once, but maybe that helps that I'm just more familiar with the shows they were kind of poking fun at this time than I am with the previous 2. But I don't know. What do you think, Adam, about these 2 episodes? Did you think they were pretty funny?
Yeah, they were definitely more enjoyable. I mean, I liked seeing some more references, like you said, to stuff that I understood. Hair and Annie and different things like that that felt more relevant. Definitely they were funny, and I'm sure we'll get into some of the individual scenes.
Yeah.
They didn't feel quite as dark.
Yeah.
But it was much more clever, I think, this time, because they're starting to get into the plot of things.
Yeah. And I think with the sort of hippies part, you don't need to have seen Hair to get like a hippies joke. So I think that helps.
Yeah, I think that with the hippies in general too. Yeah, you don't need to have seen Hair to understand the relevance of Hair.
Yeah, and just that like a hippie joke is, we all know what they are, and so it's funny even if you haven't seen the particular show. But yeah, the little summary for episode, it's called Bells and Whistles is the name, and it's while Josh spends time on the run with Topher and the tribe, Melissa explores Chicago looking for clues and uncovers a family secret. And we got a lot of Easter eggs just right off the top for this one. I mean, the fact that it's Sondheim's children's home, and just a lot of clear things to Sweeney Todd and Annie. I mean, do you think, Maren, that they are almost too on the nose sometimes? Like saying Sondheim's children's home, is that too on the nose?
Yeah. I was wondering about this, and just, when do you cross the line of parody and almost copyright? I was thinking about that because they are almost too on the nose, and we'll get to episode 4, but the little priest one, which when Adam was just saying it's not quite as dark, I kind of felt that one was almost a little too dark, but in a hilarious way. I found it hilarious. But yeah, sometimes I feel like, oh my gosh, how are they not getting sued?
Yeah.
But I watched a video, or listened to, I don't remember what it was. I think I watched a video where they were talking with one of the writers, and he was saying that, he tries very carefully to toe the line to make sure that he's not crossing the line and doing it too closely. But yeah, sometimes I feel like, oh my gosh, this is really close.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing that like Saturday Night Live and other places like that, they have to be careful with is, where do you cross the line between like parody and stealing, other people's work, because parody is protected under fair use, but obviously, there's a line. Like that's when the Bridgerton musical people had to they tried to claim for a little while that it's parody, we're not stealing your intellectual property. But then once they actually mounted it, and then they got sued.
Then they got sued because it seemed more like they were doing an adaptation. So yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about that, Adam?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a fine line. I'm not versed enough in the law to understand where it is, and I see some of that happen a lot. I mean, you see it happen on lots of shows where there's either a callback to, something that's a takeoff or a spoof on something else that's, is nearby.
Yeah.
I think back to the old Cola Wars where they would, in the ads, they wouldn't be able to say Coke or Pepsi, whichever one wasn't doing the ad, but they would certainly use the color scheme and the font and things like that to sort of make you think. I mean, the number of times I hear people trying to say Super Bowl without saying Super Bowl is which may mean we're going to get sued for me saying Super Bowl now. But anyway, things like that. And I think I find it more fun personally to find the Easter eggs that aren't glaringly in my face. Like sometimes children's home, like if there had been something there that had been split up, the word, or some some clue that was from a Sondheim show, or it goes by so fast, like the Conrad Birdie thing, that you sort of have to double take and say, wait, did I miss that one? And I'm sure there's a lot of Easter eggs I missed because of that, but those are the more fun. But that's maybe me as a puzzler and a crossword puzzle guy and things like that, is that I like doing a little bit of discovery on my own.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with that. I think that Jane Krakowski and Aaron Tveit really are stealing this show. I think that they were both so funny. Jane playing Bobby, the lawyer, I thought she was really funny. And I love it when she's like, there's very little I can't do besides bore people and not look good in a suit.
Right. Oh, yes. That line was so fantastic. And then her number in the court was just beautiful in every way, parody and then not parody. Like it just was so fantastic.
Like, she says, are you emotional or do you have something contagious? I'd prefer the latter. And then another good line, obviously I'm a human miracle, but now it's going to be a lot harder to get him exonerated.
Right.
I just thought she was really funny. And I mean, she had that one good song in the first season, but that was about it, the driving song. But they really have used her well.
Yeah, I feel like they finally understand what they have in her, and they're using her better this season.
Yeah, it was really funny, I thought. And another thing that like you don't have to know about Chicago or things to just find, that's just funny dialogue.
Right.
Yeah. Are you a fan of Rachel's Reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics Panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a Patreon. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night or even become a guest on the podcast. Podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really, really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies. So she sends off Melissa to go find the killer, the real killer. And also she's trying to find Josh, and Josh is with the hippies. He's got his afro hair. And I don't know, Aaron Tveit was so funny in these scenes. I thought as Topher, getting the vibe that you feel burdened. That's really funny. And he was like, what if we meet in the middle and say clothing optional?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then we also, we get a whole number. We got the gotta get naked number, which was really funny.
Especially because that, again, I was watching the episode with my husband and who's never seen Hair. And, but even if you've never seen Hair, about that people get naked in Hair. Yeah. And so that's like the one thing people know. And so that's where it's hilarious. It's so funny.
Also, I feel like because it was like a top 40 hit, I feel like everybody kind of knows Good Morning Starshine.
Right.
From Hair. And so they would recognize kind of the homage to that, even if you haven't, like I haven't seen it, but know that song. So, then we get to Quick Street, which is the seedy side of Chicago, which is an allusion to Easy Street for Annie. And it's interesting that they leaned on Annie so much. Did that surprise you, Adam, at all?
It seems to, although I think if you look at Annie, outside of the Warbucks scenes and sort of the rich mansion scenes, Annie and Oliver to some degree, although they haven't pulled in Oliver yet, both have those darker themes, especially with the Hannigan and the orphans, and the whole orphans hard knock life, and Annie's maybe and whatever are all sort of these darker songs that kind of say, life could be better and life kind of stinks right now, and I can be optimistic through the hard times. But it fits well in this theme to a degree. I think it's a nice way to sort of try to keep some of that audience that they got with the first season. It's more familiar with sort of the family friendly musicals like Oklahoma and Music Man and Brigadoon and whatever. And this is and bringing in Annie is a good way to capture that audience. I just of course Kristen Chenoweth as the Hannigan type character was fabulous.
Yeah. Have you ever directed Annie?
I have.
Yeah. Okay. It must be challenging with all those kids.
Well, I love directing kids. I'm one of those weirdos who will try to put kids in every show I do. Kids. The more challenging part was the pets or the dogs.
Oh yeah, same.
But yeah, it was fabulous. So it was it was a lot of fun.
The other thing about Annie, which is not like people, if they only know it from the movie, don't know it so much, is I like to thank you, Herbert Hoover, and some of those sides where we bring up the poverty and everything, and that's where it is more of a dark musical too. Is that it's a musical of the haves and the have-nots, and so when you look at some of that, it really is more dark than what people think of. People only remember the sun will come out tomorrow and whatever, but it's so much more than that.
Yeah, that's the thing about Annie, is it sort of formulaically in terms of the ending sort of falls into some of those earlier musicals like Oklahoma and everything, where everything sort of ends hunky-dory and you walk away feeling good. Annie's got Warbucks now and all this stuff. But you're right, it is very much about the poverty, about what that time period was like, and so it is a good one.
Well, and Miss Hannigan, I mean, she's so deliciously evil, but if you think about like if you take her at her word, it's just pretty dark. I mean, the way she treats these
she's
children.
Horribly abusive. She's a horribly abusive human being.
Yeah. So they kind of have Miss Caldwell is kind of a combination of Miss Hannigan and Mrs. Lovett. I mean, she in her appearance is very Mrs. Lovett, but then obviously she's running an orphanage, so that's very Mrs. Hannigan. And she sings a song kind of similar. It's like a short song, so I'm not sure what the name was, but sings a song similar to Little Girls, which is such a great song. Annie, I love that song. They have a song about lambs and that they're singing at the commune, and that was, since I just saw Godspell, that was very Godspell-y in the way that it was like telling a parable, and there's the prodigal son and everything.
Yeah, it was a perfect parody of Godspell.
Because the first act of Godspell is all parables. And they're all like, gather around and I'm going to tell you a tale. And then the second act is all about the Christ story. And I personally thought the second half was a lot stronger than the first half, maybe because it was like more of a thread throughout the whole thing, as opposed to like all these individual stories. So just, I don't know, I liked it better. But we have Alan Cumming, and he is Dooley Bright, basically supposed to be Sweeney Todd, and he sings the worst brats in town. And that was pretty good. I like that. That was funny.
Yeah, and that's right. That's what, because Christians was the worst brats in town.
Right.
The worst brats and the worst brats. I remember because I thought that was such a funny little play, the two of them.
Oh yeah, that does make sense. And so they talk about Elsie. That's the girl who was murdered, and that's obviously also a reference from Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not Chicago. Cabaret, when he talks about new girl named Elsie.
Right.
Yeah, in Cabaret, which I got to see. I was so excited on Sunday.
Yeah,
I
I actually got jealous because I went to go and try and sold out. So good job you that you got to go see it. I mean, I've seen it before, but I didn't get to see it at the U.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was really fun because, and I don't know if they do this everywhere where they do Cabaret, but they had all the different Kit Kat players out in the audience before it started, like kind of flirting and chatting, and they were so funny. So that was a really nice way to get kind of brought into the story. But because it was like a black box theater, so they could do that. They could come out and kind of talk to everybody, and that was fun. But we find out that Dooley's daughter is Jenny, who's Dove Cameron's character, and that Krat is the rich man, and basically he's supposed to be kind of the judge, right, from Sweeney Todd.
Right.
Yeah. And I don't know, there was just a lot of funny lines. I shall call this my Justice Cleaver.
Yeah.
And I know, Adam, you said you're not a big Sondheim fan. What did you think about just some of these scenes? This was a Sondheim more heavy episode.
I mean, I'm watching it just through the eyes of a viewer who's not familiar with most of these shows. That that it's very entertaining. I can't go back like I could in the first season and say, oh yeah, that one's referencing this musical and that one's referencing this musical. But they were still. I mean, I thought the music was a lot of fun. All the songs were very entertaining. And I didn't notice a particular call out to Sondheim versus somebody else, but again, not being a Sondheim guru, I didn't notice that stuff. So
just out of curiosity, so what was the Sondheim that you didn't like? You said you didn't like him.
I mean, I don't have a big problem with him. I just, a lot of his stuff I know is so difficult in terms of
that's true.
As a director, yeah, I think Sondheim would be very difficult to direct.
Yeah, and it just, I'm kind of I'm a barbershop harmony guy, and so I really like tight harmonies. And sometimes Sondheim stuff feels a little atonal and a little out there, and so that's why I go for like a Wildhorn or a Loser or a Lerner and Lowe kind of thing. More than a Sondheim. But I mean, the shows that Sondheim does are entertaining, but I think my problem is that I've seen so many bad versions of Into the Woods.
Yeah.
Tried to be done with people who couldn't sing or who couldn't handle the Sondheim trickiness. That it became difficult to watch, and it became 2.5 hours of sitting there going, please shoot me now.
I was hoping you were going to say that, because I agree about Into the Woods. I respect it. I understand it. I just saw it again this weekend. I get it. I just don't love it. I don't love the show.
And that's the funny thing, because Into the Woods would actually be one of my top 10 shows. I have seen bad versions, and that's when it's hard, because with community theater, you do end up seeing bad versions, and it is also some of the worst things I've seen when I've seen bad versions.
Yeah.
But I also got to go back to New York and see the current version that's on Broadway, and I saw it with Sarah Bareilles and everybody, and that's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. So, when it's done right, it's one of the best things that you can see. It's one of the most beautiful masterpieces out there. But when it's done wrong, it's awful.
Yeah, it's not my favorite, I think, even when it's done right, but I respect it and I understand it and I get it. I just don't love it. The subversiveness doesn't really work for me, but again, I get why people love it.
I-
But I'm probably done with Wind
will
of the Woods
say-
for a little while.
I will say this though, to Maren's point, I used to not be a big Shakespeare fan.
Mhm.
And then I got involved in a couple of shows with some of the local directors who are really good at directing Shakespeare and building character and understanding dialogue. And all of a sudden, I gained a new appreciation for it. So if I were to see, Sondheim on Broadway or somewhere in a more professional setting, I probably would have a better appreciation for it. But I've most of my theater viewing has been limited to community theater stuff.
Yeah. So then we have Melissa going to find, she goes into the commune, she gets Josh, and there's they have the rainbow bread, which I thought was kind of funny.
Can
And
I
then-
also just add here, the two things that I thought were so funny about this particular part of the show is
Mhm.
Melissa's costuming, how they
Yeah.
keep putting her in that part of the musicals, that she's more in the company, more in that type of 60s. So she's still in the era, but she's always got the big hats, or she's got,
Oh
so
yeah.
she's not fitting into the hair, the hippie style. She's totally in a different style that works, but it's obvious that she's not part of them. And so she's othering, and I love it. I love it so much. And then I love how Josh all of a sudden had hair.
Yeah,
He
it was
woke up
really
with
funny.
hair. That made me laugh so hard.
I was going to ask you about the hats because they were like British almost looking, like fascinator type hats, like very, I didn't quite get it, like what they were going for there with the hats. It's more in the
So,
next episode, but
In a lot of shows that are more like your company type shows or the upper class type shows, that like there's different types of people who would wear that kind of costuming. And
mhm.
so it's kind of showing that Melissa would fall into where she would be that type of person in this era, whereas
Mm.
Josh would fall more into
The
the
hippie.
hippie, the Topher side of things.
Okay.
So that's how I'm starting to feel it when I'm looking at the costume design, and which me too. I have like a million fascinators. I love them, but yeah, that's how I read it, and
Mhm.
or read the room, and that's why like whenever she goes to the commune, they don't like her because
Yeah.
she's not like them.
Well, I really liked when Bobby sings Bells and Whistles. I thought she comes down on trapeze, which was funny. And that, to me, it seemed like that was a reference to Chorus Line. That the song me, and but I thought it was really, I just thought she was so funny in this episode. She really worked.
I felt like it was totally a mix between Chorus Line and Chicago, like just like
Mhm.
both of those.
Yeah.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
So then Krat is there, two birds with he says he does two birds with one stone. And evidently, according to what I read, this was an homage to Jesus Christ Superstar, which I have never seen.
Yeah, it's the people, and I've only seen Jesus Christ Superstar twice, so but it's when the people are talking about killing Jesus and getting Judas to betray him.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. But this one, I just felt like it had the most just outright funny jokes that you didn't need to know about a particular show or whatever. It was just the funny writing. And so she ends up freeing him from the commune. And so, all right. So then we have episode 4, and this is something real. It's after Josh and Melissa realize they need to find a happy ending for everyone. They try to make that happen with unintended consequences. So they get out at the Bobby. The end, they get him free, and so they decide they're going to walk across the bridge. And I just liked it. Was funny when they're like, please do not engage with the narrator. And they walk across the bridge, and they end up back in Chicago, and it says, you two have a lot to learn about happiness. And then he says, literally everyone here is unhappy. Maybe we need a happy ending for everyone. And how do we make a happy ending for everyone when we can't even make one for ourselves? So, Adam, what did you think about this? Did you think that was a smart kind of way to go for the story?
Yeah, it made me, because I had wondered from the beginning, what's the happy ending going to look like?
Mm-hmm.
Because it seemed like it was too simple to sort of end up with, or too old school, old musical for just Josh and Melissa to end up happy. So it seemed like they needed to do something else to bring happiness to the town or to the people there. But I'm still curious to see how the next couple episodes, take that onward. And because it feels again like we're, if there's only 6 episodes in a season and we're 2/3 of the way through those 6 episodes, it feels less than 2/3 of the way through the story.
Yeah. And I was wrong. The Prodigal Son song is actually in this episode that they sing. They go to the commune, and I liked the granola policy: take a scoop, leave a scoop.
Yeah,
that was funny. And then they have the Talk to Daddy song,
which that was I had to look it up. That's one I admit I had to look up, and they said it's from Pajama Game, which that's a show I've never seen.
Wait,
no, I have never seen it.
Which song was from Pajama Game? Because that was the first musical I ever did.
Oh, really?
Talk to Daddy. They said that was.
Oh, now I see it.
Well, and I also read that it was like a little bit of an allusion to Bye Bye Birdie and Telephone Hour in it.
It felt like that to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did say that there was some of Bye Bye Birdie and Pajama Game, but yeah, because I've never seen Pajama Game, so I was like, the Talk to Daddy one felt great, and I thought it was hilarious, but it was just, I was like, I don't know this reference. Yeah. And that was the first one where I didn't know a reference.
I just saw Bye Bye Birdie on Friday, and I enjoyed it. I did it in high school, so I have a lot of nostalgia for it. And
yeah, I did that. I did Bye Bye Birdie in college. So.
I think it has a ton of catchy songs. I just hate the mother so much. She's so I get it. She's supposed to be cringy. That's the point of the character, but it's just too much. I'm just I don't know. She's too racist. She's just too annoying. I can't. But it's hard as a critic. It's really hard to know how to review a show, because obviously they can't control that. That's in the show. And
right.
the woman did a good job playing this role, but I just hate the character.
Right. That's something I've had to work on a lot in my world of theater criticism, because Utah does so many shows that I don't like. And again, I just, I have to step back and say, but if I were someone coming here who wanted and cared about this show or whatever else, I'm reviewing the quality of the show, not the writing. Someone else 40 years ago reviewed the writing.
Yeah. And I was talking to a playwright the other day, and she was like, you all don't, talk about the playwrights enough in your reviews. And I'm like, well, it's really hard because you're trying to review the production, and they have no control over that. So how much time do you spend on that? It's
right.
I saw her point as well.
Yeah.
But
and that is a good point. If I see a brand new show, I got to review Shucked when it was at Pioneer. I talked about playwrights in that review because hey, I was the first critic to watch Shucked. So
That's cool. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Adam, have you done Bye Bye Birdie?
I have directed Bye Bye Birdie as well. Yes.
Yeah. What was that like to direct? Challenging? Lots
It
of
was
teens.
it was fun. I mean, it's a show that I love. We did it in American Fork, and so it raised a stink. One particular scene raised a stink with people, and
That's
so
funny.
it sort of put a damper on the. I felt like the show went well, and the
Mhm.
show was well received. But getting sort of messages after the fact of how dare you play that scene, and in American Fork was a little dampening.
That is funny that
But
people would make an issue with.
to your point about sort of focusing on the playwrights, I've had the great opportunity to do several original scripts,
Mhm.
to direct 3 or 4 of them. I've done one from Mel Larson. I've done at least one from Stephen Gasher, and then another one that I just did this last year. That it was a lot of fun, but I do wish that like the one I just did this last year called Sirens it was a lot of fun because the playwright was directly involved, and so I got to work with him and sort of help figure out some things, and then it was fun to do. But it is hard because you're right, sometimes the scripts are what they are, and because of the stringent licensing agreements, you're not really even allowed to change a lot of things without strict written permission, and so then you're sort of stuck. There's a lot of great shows out there that I'd like to do, but I sort of worry about, especially in this day and age, of trying to pull them out. A show like The Mikado, or I know American Forks King and I is getting some backlash right now.
Oh, I got to check that out. I didn't know they were doing King and
Well,
I.
I think they're doing it, or they at least talked about doing it. I don't know what happens.
Oh.
I remember seeing an audition for it, and then seeing people talking about how come you're not using people of color in the roles, and and you got to be careful with this.
It's fair.
And it's fair. I mean, all the criticism is fair, but some of it you say this reflects the time period that it was in. And so I've had this discussion with my theater kids in my family several times of where do you draw the line between changing something to fit the modern viewpoints and keeping something as it is because it reflects the time period.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Or
so,
even just considering has it become a relic of the past, and we don't do the show.
Like Thoroughly Modern Millie. Oh, like I don't know how some of that stuff got saved in the book into with the revival. Like that whole subplot with the human trafficking and everything is so cringy. Like what? I mean, and I saw a high school do it a couple years ago, and they had non-Chinese actors playing those roles. But in a way, I was like, it's such an insulting portrayal. Like it's so bad that in a way I was kind of like, it almost would be worse. I don't know. Like, it's just it's so bad. I was shocked because I hadn't seen it in a long time. Going back to it, I was like, whoa, that's really bad. Like, why did they leave that in? But anyway, if they did a revival of Bye Bye Birdie, I personally just take out the entire mother character. She's just the worst, in my opinion. But anyway, so then we have we have Jenny and Topher kind of getting together. Feels like this is something real. And that was pretty funny. And I get the feeling I can be myself around you. And where does this girl on stage stop? And I begin. And then the narrator, let's spend some time with a younger, much more appealing couple.
That was funny.
It's really funny.
I actually thought that song that they sang though was really pretty.
It was pretty.
I remember like thinking like, is this really a parody? Because I think this is a very pretty song.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like you need some of those. You need like
Right.
a couple songs in the season that are like genuinely good songs. Like if anything, at least for the like for the Emmy considerations, you need like some standalone good songs mixed in with that. But it was good. And then so they try to get Dooley and Miss Caldwell together. the butcher and the orphanage lady. And then they go on a date. And he's like, I brought my cleaver. And then she says, I can't remember the last time someone cut my beef for me, which was really funny. And then they have this whole song, Are They Good Enough to Eat? Which I think was sort of Hard Knock Life from Annie. What do you think?
Is that the one with
all the orphans? Are the orphans good enough to eat?
See, that was, to me, that was a mix between that and A Little Priest from Sweeney Todd.
I can see that. I
certainly think the staging and the choreography was very much Hard Knock Life feeling.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The staging, but then there was so much of A Little Priest in it.
I also felt a little bit, maybe it's just because I saw this fairly recently, I felt a little Oliver in this, where they were coming up to get the soup and things like that. There was a little bit of, which would have been right around the same time as all these other shows they were talking about.
Right. But the fact that they were talking about putting the kids into the pies and everything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So very much like what they do in A Little Priest. So.
And didn't you say you've been to Sweeney Todd where they actually had pies?
Yeah. So off Broadway in 2019, 2018, it was earlier than that. Anyway, but yeah, it was an off-Broadway production, and it was the former White House pastry chef was making meat pies. And so it was fantastic, and they were delicious too. But yeah, they served meat pies right as a dinner theater, and then you watched, and then like the audience after the lights go down, the cast was actually in the audience with you, and they started using the silverware, like Attend the Tale of Sweeney Todd, and then they clinked the silverware. Ching, ching. It was so creepy and so fantastic. It was I can't even imagine a better Sweeney Todd than that. It was the best Sweeney Todd I've ever seen. It was so creepy and so intimate and so just like but no,
that would be fun. I would like that.
It was so good. It was so good.
Well, so then the end of the episode is just them looking at Colwell and Dooley and them all dancing. And so Josh and Melissa thinks, oh, they're getting along great. This is great. And they're thinking,
but they're getting ready to cook the children.
So that's the kind of the cliffhanger. And that's the episode. So we only have 2 more left, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is sad. I wish that we had got like 10 episodes, but I'm sure it's a really expensive show to make. Plus getting just this cast together is gotta be hard.
Alone is expensive.
Mm-hmm. Well, and just the time, they're so busy, everybody, for getting them. But yeah, so we have one more recap that we'll be doing of episodes 5 and 6, and we'll look forward to that. And thank you to both of you for doing this. It's a lot of fun. And Maren, where can people follow you?
I am on Twitter and Facebook, just under Maren Swenson, and Instagram, and then on TikTok under Doc Broadway. And then, of course, Utah Theater Bloggers.
Yeah. You got anything fun coming up?
So my daughter has been doing 12 Angry Jurors at her high school, Syracuse High. And so that's what I've been kind of doing. Like today I went and saw Queer the Stage at Good Company, which was theater in Ogden, which was really, really cool. But I've been kind of spending every night last weekend, and then this weekend I will as well go see my daughter and 12 Angry Jurors. And that was really, it was kind of tough because she plays juror number 10. And if anyone knows that show, juror number 10 is the racist, bigoted juror. And that's been really hard to watch my child do that. My daughter's biracial, so it's been really, really challenging, and she does a very good job of it, but it's been tough. So
That would
yeah,
be hard. That would be hard. I've actually seen a production at Syracuse High School. I saw Anastasia there. And so
yeah,
I still get the emails from them whenever they have a new show. But I should check it out. They did a good job.
they do. Her teacher is
Yeah.
very, very good. She's a sophomore, so this is her
Mhm.
first year of doing shows, but her teacher is very, very
Yeah.
talented. So.
I only have one show this week, which is very unusual for me. But I'm seeing the the abridged, revised, complete works of William Shakespeare at the Pleasant Grove Players, and I just encourage everybody to check out this. It's this little theater inside the Pleasant Grove Library, and this couple, the Littles is their names, they have been putting on shows in this little tiny theater for like over a decade. And they're always great. I've never been disappointed on a single show that I've seen there. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing that. So it'll be fun.
Catherine and Howard are fabulous, and that's a fun little theater there.
Isn't it great? And I feel like people don't know about it. I mean, it's just such, I almost don't want people to know about it because it's so cute. but yeah, they're great. And I hope to get to interview them because I think what they're doing is really cool. But yeah, so that's what's going on. And Adam, do you want to share your Instagram or anything like that?
Sure. So I'm on Instagram. I'm pretty easy to find. Usually some combination of AQ Cannon and the number 35. With or without the number will get me on Instagram and Facebook. I haven't made the leap to TikTok yet, partially just because I don't like seeing myself on camera. But you know, I do browse through TikTok occasionally, just here and there. But yeah, mostly I'm just on Facebook and Instagram, and again on Instagram I'm mostly more of a lurker than a poster. But you know, I love being out there, and I certainly love talking to people who want to talk theater stuff with me.
Yeah.
So
we'll have all that in the description. You can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes, and my new site, rachelsreviewstheater.com. And I started my first Theater Tuesday last week, where I did my top 20 underrated Broadway musicals. So definitely check that out. And thanks so much to both of you. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. And talk to y'all later. Bye.
bye.